Welcome to Creation in the 21st Century. I'm your host, Carl Ball, founder and director of the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. We have an unusual program for you today. The title to the program is Remember the Living. Well, now, that's a twist on our normal thought process. We look into the past, and history remembers those with great accomplishments. In Christian history and biblical history, we look back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and remember those who were alive but are now dead in the flesh. We remember the Wycliffes, the Tyndales, who gave their lives. In fact, one of those great gentlemen was exhumed 40 years after he was buried, and his bones were burned. We look back upon that with great respect, remembering the dead. And often we have Memorial Day in the United States, remembering those who gave their lives and sacrificed their all for our liberty. Around the world, there are many ceremonies remembering those who, with great valor and dedication, paid a price beyond that of ordinary citizens. But there are cultures who actually commemorate living life forms, living people, living objects, living systems, animals, etc. And they base their culture around an appreciation for and a representation of the living. Some of those had been dead in the past, but counterparts were alive at the moment the memorial or the dramatic representation was made. Remember the living. I've asked to the studio today a dear friend of mine that I guess I've had on as many or more times than any other guest, cryptozoologist Dr. Dennis Swift.
Carl, it's so good to see you.
Dennis, what a pleasure to have you. You have some information that is startling. You've been on the program many times. In fact, amazingly, when you're on, the ratings are higher. And I don't know how your friends know you're going to be on, but by the millions, they watch the program when you're on.
That's fantastic.
It really is. God has favored you. You prayed and made a promise to God long years ago, and He has favored you in giving you insight and artifacts. Now, we're going to look at some pictures, but at the end of the program, I want this audience to know the artifacts we're going to be seeing are not replications, they are the genuine artifacts. Yes. But would you take us through a scenario?
I'm going to take you to the jewel of the Andes to begin with.
All right, Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu, the unrivaled splendor, sheer grandeur, and unsurpassed majesty of this city up on the about 8,000 feet in the Andes. We believe Atahualpa, the emperor of the Incas, built it. Recently, they found a deed in his name to the property.
Wow.
Now, this information was lost. He built it probably between 1460, 1490. By the time the conquistadors there, came to Peru in 1532, the place was abandoned. And the Incas' descendants did not know about this place. When Hiram Bingham discovered it in 1911, he thought that it was Vilcabamba, the last place of the Incas, but it's not. Vilcabamba is more than 30 miles away, deeper into the rainforest.
Yes, yes.
But what very, very few people know is that the Incas and other pre-Columbian people, they worshipped animals. They had sacred landscapes.
Yes.
Everything around them was living. The mountain was Apis, the bull, the spirits. The condor is a sacred bird. And so hardly anybody's done this kind of research. But here's the key to unlocking any civilization. Romans 1:23 says they exchanged the glory of God for the images of birds and reptiles and men.
Yes.
And they began to worship the creatures rather than the Creator.
That's correct.
Now, do we have evidence of that at Machu Picchu? Absolutely. If you go to Machu Picchu and stand at Huayna Picchu, the higher peak, and look down, if you look closely, it was laid out in the shape of a condor.
Incredible. And that high peak would be the place of preference?
Yes.
I don't know of any other scholar who has picked up on that.
Well, I'm trying to publish some stuff about these discoveries. There's a couple of people have noted a few of them, but I've been invited to do the Andean Congress this fall to teach the tour guides and the professors and people in Peru who teach at the university some of these discoveries. But if you look here, you see it's in the shape of a condor. The condor is what a bird. It's 10 to 16 feet wingspan.
Wow.
I've seen condors before. It's frightening when you first see them. But I want to catch a condor. I'm going to go down there to a place where they still rise out of the canyon.
Good luck.
And if you
I'll
put out
pray
animals,
for you.
after 8 to 10 days, they come. They will come.
Okay.
And then the male condor, and when they eat too much, they can't fly for a while. So they squawk around, and you can grab up behind them and blindside them, catch a condor. I want to.
Well, now, when you catch one, what are you going to do with it?
Maybe I can bring it back here to the Dallas Zoo. So here's a puma. The other side, there's the shape of a puma. See the tail? See
a
the
big
body,
cat,
the outline?
yes.
This side of Machu Picchu. Here it is.
There we
drawn
are.
out.
The
so
tail,
people don't know it.
running motion,
In order to
the
go
head.
to Pachamama, which is their mother goddess. Now, anytime a civilization moves away from Jesus Christ, they move into terror, they move into fear, they move into worship,
Absolutely.
they move into all kinds of paranoia about everything.
Yes.
So what happens is, this is the way when you come to the back of the reproductive system of the puma, you're actually making an offering to Pachamama. And then this side, if you look here, is in the shape of a caiman, an alligator, or a crocodile.
Yes.
And you see the whole shape. Now, the center section up here is in the shape of a llama.
Wow. And even the contour.
Yes, the contour,
Is
everything
diagram.
comes into thing, is what they call a sacred landscape. Now, here at the eye of the caiman, the alligator, you see a hummingbird. Now, I've highlighted this. Now, if you're walking around there, you're not going to notice this at all. You're gonna, because all the stones are the same color.
Well, I've wondered for years why these stones were fit, particularly like that, and meticulously so.
You see, there's a hummingbird, which they also was the messenger to the gods.
Okay.
And down to Nazca lines in southern Peru, they have the giant geoglyphs of hummingbirds. But you see up above, too, they have the little birds on the top of the head. Now, here in another section is a duck, a mallard duck.
Yes, in flight.
It might be an Oregon duck, University of Oregon. But you see, here's the duck. And when ducks fly, the wings, they fold up their legs. There's a mallard duck in
Certainly,
flight.
and that's exactly
So they
what you see
depicted-
with the fold at the end here, with a little crescent.
And all of this is designed to make offerings to the mother god Pachamama and for protection. Now, here is a bird walking. See the two legs?
And
here's the
in
bird.
Exact
So 5,
profile,
10, 20
yes.
ton stones shaped like birds. And at different animals, puma, condors. This is intriguing. At Sacsayhuaman, there's a giant fortress. There's these megalithic stones. The largest is about 300 tons, and its jagged shape goes in and out, like the teeth of an animal, or a mountain ridge, in and out. And here is, you look closely at Sacsayhuaman, this giant fortress, they made 3 tiers. First, they made in 3 levels into the mountain, they cut 3 levels. Platform 1, platform 2, platform 3.
All right.
Then they cut into the banks, and it looks like they put up platforms like we pour concrete, or like the hallway of this building has some beams against wood, and they put up this, and then you see, look at this gigantic stone. That might be 150 tons. See these marks right here?
Yes.
It's just like when you put the ends of trees against something that's forming. So that means the stone was not hard when it was placed there.
I see.
It
like
may be
the pyramids may have been
It
poured.
may be that they poured it. When you look at the way the structure is and the details of the different angles and where the remains of the
Fascinating.
trees are, now that's a 300-ton stone here. And then we see these 43 angles in an Inca stone. But at Sacsayhuaman, I believe they had some capacity, from my research, that they had a mixture of somehow to soften stone and move it in small quantities. They put up the forms, they made the 3-tiered shape, and then it began to harden, and you see the remains of the round, you see it everywhere, the round tree trunks.
Yes.
Like,
Well,
just
some
this.
believe the pyramids were actually poured in place, and you simply take the calcium carbonate, pulverize it, mix it, and reform.
If you look closely at these, you can't put a razor blade in between them.
Correct.
But in some places you have bubbles. Bubbles are formed in concrete when you mixed it,
That's correct.
not in hard stone.
That's right.
And sometimes you see the little rocks and bubbles next to it.
Fascinating.
Also,
I think you've discovered something.
Sacsayhuaman was built with an astonishing underground system of long stones, circular, round stones, other material. It's almost virtually earthquake-proof. Even 7-8 point earthquakes in the 1700s,
Incredible.
that place survived. Now, this predates the Incas, the Sacsayhuaman people. But also, they had capacity to drill through granite, not only soften some stones, but you see here a drill hole through hard granite
That's
in the Temple of the Sun, and the metal clips. They showed at Tiahuanaco, they had to have some kind of portable smelt where they poured it along, and then they poured the clamps underneath to hold the stones together.
Marvelous technology.
Now, if you walk along Sacsayhuaman, as millions of tourists have, you're not going to see this. You're just going to walk right past it. But if you look right here at one place, look closely, the stones are arranged as a llama.
And these are deliberately arranged.
See the ear?
Yes.
See the head?
Yes.
Now see the body?
Yes.
Now see the tail. They put the llama in the seating position during reproduction, the female to receive the male, also when they're resting. And in order to approach Pachamama, even in the belief system today of the Andes, you have to go through Ila, the llama. Here's a llama here that has the ear
Yes.
knocked off, but the rest of the llama is seated. They also had the puma. Puma is
The
one of their
face of the
sacred
cat.
animals.
Yes.
Moves silently, stealthily through the jungle.
Yes.
And then you see they did their paw, the puma paw in
Yes.
50 tons, 25 tons, 30 tons. And so here they have this arrangement to worship the fallen world.
Plus, we need to emphasize again, you
Yes.
can't put a razor blade between these.
These
They had to be
cracks.
deliberately
Rubber dub.
poured in place.
And
now,
high degree of technology and construction.
a very high degree of technology and construction. Now we come to a very intriguing portion of the program today. Dr. Swift,
This is just fabulous, fantastic, indescribable. If you look closely at this ancient fortress on the hillside, these megalithic stones,
yes,
it's arranged according to the curvature of the earth,
okay,
part of the curvature of the earth.
yes,
That's deliberate. They also believe there was a worldwide flood,
yes, they did.
that the civilization that they're depicting was destroyed by a global flood. So I'm showing this with a wave coming. Now, if you look at an aerial photograph of Sacsayhuaman, and by the way, this shape right here, if you read Plato, although I'm not into, there could have been a lost Atlantis. This whole shape right here fits with Plato's description of a
All
building.
right,
But
interesting.
that was destroyed. But here is, you look here, all along here is like a ridge. The satellite photos show that if you put Sacsayhuaman over the dorsal ridge, the mountain range underneath the Atlantic, it shows, it matches up real close.
Very interesting.
So is this civilization that, we don't know who built Sacsayhuaman. It was there before the Incas were there. They are saying something about a world that was destroyed by a flood.
Yes.
They left the evidence in stone. I don't know, this is the first time this is going to be heard publicly.
All right.
Definitely in the United States. So here's mochi vases. Part of their belief system was there was an evil people, the snake man, and the puma man. The puma are the wise people.
Mm-hmm.
And because of evil, there was a great flood. A great wave came,
I would agree with that.
destroyed their civilization. Look at the vases in 3 tiers. Sacsayhuaman built in 3 tiers. Look below the vase, and there are people lying dead.
Yes.
So in their pottery, they're showing the history of their civilization.
Even
Now,
in their pagan worship, there's throwback to the
Yes.
reality of the flood.
I've read most of all the chroniclers to the Incas, the people who came with the Spanish. And Father Bernardo Cobo notes that all the Indian groups of Peru agreed that there was a worldwide flood and the divine creator in providence had spared a few people to repopulate the earth.
Yes.
Now, the Incas believed that there were 2 people in a boat that ended up landing at Lake Titicaca. There's variations of this flood story all over Peru with all of the pre-Columbian Indian groups.
But the basic thread of evidence, there was a worldwide flood.
Now, deep in the mines of Potosi in Bolivia, this mine was started in about 1570. It was the largest city in the world till about 1663.
That's astounding.
Largest city. Larger than London. And it was the Potosi mines. And the chronicler of the Incas, de César de Leon, notes that they found deep inside the silver mines remnants of boats. Not only do you find, they even found those recently. Half-mile inside this mountain at 15,000 feet.
Have you seen those boats?
I have not seen the remnants myself, but I have the documents.
Marvelous.
We need to go next year.
We need to go. We need to go.
So at Lake Titicaca, the ruins are at the bottom of the lake at 13,000 feet. Now, the ancient Inca people built the city of Cusco in the shape of a puma.
Yes.
Now, about the puma, they made Sacsayhuaman the teeth or the head of the puma. There were 328 wakas. That's where they worshipped. And they worshipped the sun, gold, the sun, S-O-N. So when the summer and the winter solstice, the light came first in the morning, it hit the head of the puma. And there's a waka, a worship thing. And the light shines, so the puma's eyes lights up. So now the puma is coming awake. And it goes through all these different mountain passes, and they're not, here's the puma's shadow, another waka. They also did figures of people, other animals. There's about 16 of these wakas left. There used to be 328 of them. All of this is lighting up. The puma is coming alive, all the way down to the tail. It's starting to rise. Here's the head of the puma and another waka. Now, the Inca emperor, Atahualpa, he would be inside the Temple of the Sun. The Temple of the Sun had over 700 plus planks that were pried out by the conquistadors that were solid gold, 3.5 feet long, 2.5 feet wide, over 700 that they took just from that one spot. And the last thing is the sun comes to the doorway of the Temple of the Sun. Atahualpa is sitting there, the puma's awakened, and now he protects with Pachamama, the earth. Of course, that's all false religion.
Surely.
Paganism,
But
destruction.
they have picked up remnants of the truth and incorporated that in their
the
paganism.
in the garden of the Temple of the Sun, the Incas made gold effigies, solid gold, of every animal, insect, bird, reptile, fish, deer, condors, any animal, solid gold was in their garden.
That leads us to the title of the program, Remember the Living. We have now come to this phase of the program. We used this on a preceding program. However, we didn't make it clear to the audience that these are not pictures, these are not replications. What you have on this table is the actual artifact in each case. Not only that, these are legally in your possession. They remembered, they even worshiped living creatures that they saw and experienced. Now that brings us to a major conflict between creation and evolution. This is creation in the 21st century. There was a time in the past when I believed and taught the theory of evolution. I did not believe that man and dinosaur lived contemporaneously. But the evidence we have found at Glen Rose is astounding. We have evidence verified by spiral CAT scan, reading through the compression density of the footprints, both man and dinosaur, and we have found them to be genuine. We can tell the difference between a carved print and a genuine print because of the spiral CAT scans. Now we come to a prima facie evidence that you have brought to the set today. I am astounded. What you have on this table, if appropriately displayed and explained in a large setting, would justify a complete museum with 4 or 5 separate corridors. Just what you have here. An entire international museum could be formed because of this. Now, what you have demonstrated and brought to the table is these cultures revered and represented living creatures. Man saw them. If man saw a living dinosaur, leading evolutionary scholars have admitted that would totally disrupt and destroy evolutionary theory. Dennis, show us what you have that shows they saw living dinosaurs.
Well, let me explain that the Atacama Desert, as I've said, is the driest place on the planet. Being the driest place on the planet, there's almost no measurable moisture. It doesn't rain. When they dug their tombs, the pre-Columbian people, they would go down 3 or 4 feet. Most of them are adobe brick line. Then they would put little wood branches across to cover the top, about 3 feet of sand. I've excavated with National Geographic at Inca Chicha
Yes.
and found artifacts there in the tombs. And I've been with Giuseppe Orfica, the #1 Nazcan archaeologist in the world, who's excavated there, and others. This was found in 1928 by the most famous archaeologist of all, Julio Tello, at Paracas. Paracas was pre-Columbian culture, about 500 BC to 100 AD. Part of this right here was on the mummy, not the blue, but this. That is an original piece of fabric from a mummy, Paracas, 300, 500 BC approximately, with dinosaurs on it.
Now, in order for that to preserve so well, not only would it require the arid context,
Yes.
but it would require a superior stitching of the fabric itself.
Yes, and some of the fabrics are simply astonishing. The best is about 696, 698 threads per linear inch.
Compared to a modern parachute?
The most 185 to 200 threads per linear inch. The most remarkably preserved, most sought out textiles in the world are from that region, Paracas, Nazca. They are priceless as far as their quality, and it looks like somebody died a year ago, not 1,000 or 2,000 years ago.
Yes.
The same we have here is...
Oh, and you have dinosaurs on that.
Yes, there's the dinosaurs right here. Several dinosaurs, red. This is the vegetable. You can see the faded one here.
Yes.
And this appears in several cultures. I will give you this one, and we'll go to... This is a Nazcan. It has the colloquial burn on it. The fluid that leaked out of the mummy, this is original.
Yes.
Those are the dinosaurs. Those are the same dinosaurs that are depicted on that Paracas fabric. This is about 1,000 years later.
All right.
Now
we have them depicted in 3 dimensions.
Is this vase, which is Paracas, about 300 to 500 BC. Remember Job 40, 15 through 18?
Oh, yes.
Behold the behemoth whom I made along with you, how he eats grass like an ox, what strength is in his loins, what power in the muscles of his belly. His tail sways like a cedar, his sinews are tightly knit together, his legs are like tubes of bronze, his bones are like rods of iron. He is the chief of all of my creation. Only God can approach him. That's what God told Job. This is an original vase with a dinosaur on it. The same thing Job saw in life, a Paracas person saw and put it on the pottery,
and represented
it was buried with him.
Remember the living.
I'm going to have a shouting spell. There is a God, and he always leaves evidence behind.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'll offer $500,000 to anybody who wants to try to dispute it. Nobody will touch it. Nobody will even try for $500,000. I will stake everything I have because I know this to be authentic, and I know any pre-Columbian expert, and I myself have been called in occasions to authenticate Peruvian artifacts.
Yes.
That's my knowledge of it. So this is Tiahuanaco, 800 to 1,000.
This is my favorite.
2 dinosaurs.
Yes. In a compassionate
This person had to have
pose.
seen them in the river. This is just an incredible face.
The tiny crest, the eyes
head,
in the
crest,
appropriate position.
The teeth, the tongue, the eyes.
Yes.
The dermal spines, the stripes that they weren't supposed to have.
Stripes?
Weren't discovered until 2007, National Geographic. All of the skeptics, even some creationists and evolutionists were saying, oh, dinosaurs didn't have stripes. Then
Some
the
did.
publication in National Geographic, just 6 months later, after they said against the Harnada Mugiwan petroglyph in New Mexico and against the vases, National Geographic showed that
Some
some of them had stripes, on part of the body like a zebra.
Yes.
Oh.
And the dermal spines,
Yeah,
the
the
dermal
dermal
frills,
spines,
found in
everything consistent with what we know about.
1992, 91?
Yes, yes.
Totally consistent.
Yes.
So in 3-dimension, they remembered the living.
That's right.
This brings us to the conclusion of the program. Dr. Swift, a world-class cryptozoologist, defying the odds and defying the standard interpretation of living systems and living creatures, has gone into jungles and arid paths where only intrepid people would dare to go. And he has brought to our cognizance for us to recognize, realize, and appreciate the fact that man and dinosaur lived contemporaneously. You understand that verifies the biblical record in Job chapter 40. You understand that defies the evolutionary interpretation. So here we have scientific, tangible evidence that man and dinosaur lived contemporaneously. Since the Bible has been demonstrated to be true in that so-called preposterous passage, the central theme of the Bible is emphasized and verified in full dimension. That theme is that we are sinners, that God became a man, born as a little babe in Bethlehem, walked our streets, went to Calvary, died for our sins, was physically buried, arose from the dead, is alive at this moment, speaking to your heart. He wants in. Would you pray this simple prayer? Lord Jesus, I'm a sinner. You know it, and I know it. And Lord Jesus, thank you for dying for me, shedding your pure, priceless blood so that I could be saved. Right now, I open my heart to you. Right now, I ask you to step in, live within me, become a part of me, cover me with your blood, save me from my sin, and I will serve you with all my heart.
Creation in the 21st Century has been sponsored by Trinity Broadcasting Network, and only with your love gift of support can this program stay on the air. So write to Creation in the 21st Century, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.